Last week we talked a lot about being easily offended. We have some ridiculous illustrations of people who are easily offended, and many of you in this room have been easily offended before you know someone. Again, you do one little small slight, and we talked about girls not getting invited to a party or getting invited to go out to eat, and that is a real thing. You talk about girls who sometimes wear the same outfit. It's amazing how quickly that offends people. And they say, she did it on purpose. She didn't even know you had that outfit. Where to me, if a guy comes up, hey, we have the same tie on, it's like, hey, we both have good taste, right? It's a compliment. Girls take it as an offense. So we talked about that, but what do you do when someone actually does do what some of the signs said there? Maybe they do mistreat you, lie about you, take advantage of you, abuse you, all those things. How do you handle that? Why in the world would you ever want to forgive them? How do you get over that offense? And there are some people in this room, maybe you are the person who did take advantage of someone or who did hurt somebody, and you need to get forgiveness and you don't know how. You've tried. And you know that you feel guilty about that. How do you move past that? Now, I don't know if I'm going to cover all of it today, and we're not going to hit this, but one day we'll hit it today. But what can we do to get over some of those things? Do I really need to give the person when they don't deserve it? If someone hurts you, why in the world would you ever forgive someone if they don't deserve it? Maybe you know they're not sorry for what they did. Maybe they never have come back to you and apologized, and they should. And I would agree with you that they should. I'm not judging you for what happened to you. Sometimes people get hurt and they feel like it's their fault. Now, some of us do things to ignite something in someone else, and we'll push their buttons and get them frustrated and then finally make them explode. You may have contributed to that, but many hurts, the way people lied about you behind your back, talked about you behind your back, abused you, did something wrong to you, ruined your reputation, and the only reason they did it is because they're malicious. Frankly, they're probably dissatisfied with their own lives, their own heart. They don't like it. They don't know what to do, so they attack other people. So how in the world do you ever get past those things? Why would you do it? We talked last week. Do you know someone who's easily offended? Make sure you discern if this is something that is an easily offended thing, or is something that is a true hurt that needs to be dealt with. Don't be like the people who come up so sincere, say, I just want you to know that I forgive you. Okay, why are you forgiving me? Well, the other day I walked past you and I said hello and you didn't say hello to me. And I've prayed about it and I've decided to forgive you and move on with my life. People say that, I think you have a problem. All right? I told you before, I had this guy come up. I had no idea what he's talking. He come up, he goes, hey, I just want to make sure everything's right between us. I said, well, I don't really want to talk to you much, but hey, everything is right between us. I have nothing not to be right with. He's like, well, 4 years ago, if you remember, this thing happened, and this, I had no clue what he's talking about. So I sat there and listened. I'm like, dude, for 4 years, this has bothered you, and I don't even remember this, and you've carried it around. So I acted like, man, you know what? It's okay. I forgive you. If there's any feelings, we do anything, just move on. Man, I feel so much better. I'm like, you're a weirdo, all right? But maybe you have someone, don't do that to someone, but in your heart, if you know there's a hurt there, and you haven't gotten past it, you haven't gotten over it, and you don't know what to do, what can you do? Don't do it if you're just easily offended. I'll tell a very transparent story here. My wife did years ago. I happen to like a certain brand of chunky peanut butter. Okay? Don't judge me if you like smooth. Oh, yeah, I hate you. Okay, you're the easily offended person. Now, so we had this peanut butter. We always got this peanut butter. Always. So I was excited about it. I went to the cabinet one day and we had a different brand in smooth. I was like, whoa. There must be a really good explanation for this. So I remember I said, hey, were they out of the brand we always get? And Chunky, she was like, oh no. She goes, the boys wanted that one. Well, at that moment, I don't care what the boys want.
That's right. Preaching.
Who's the dad of those boys? Why would you choose what the boys want over what the husband wants? And I kind of said, what in the world? I said, the boys want it now? I said, anything else they want that we want to change?
Well,
now, to her credit, you know what she did? She went the next day and bought the other brand and brought it home. And do you know who felt like a chump? I did. And I told her, don't buy that kind anymore, because that's ridiculous. She still buys it, I think, just to rub it in every time. I'm going to make him feel guilty again. But I was too easily offended. That was a stupid thing to do. It doesn't matter. In that case, I should have just not cared a bit. If one of the boys wanted it, let him have it. If she wanted that kind, let her have it. It doesn't matter. But I can find the stupidest things to get offended over. And I could have made that a big argument, which don't judge me right now, because every one of you has the similar things where you've gotten it. And if you want me to pick on her for a minute, if you clean a dish and it is not like so spotless and squeaky clean, like you can't see a reflection in the dish, but dishes don't show reflection. Don't try to tell her that. All right, so if me and the boys, we had a younger boy at our house a couple weeks ago. My kids were trying to help and pick him up. Anyway, help him, but he was there. So kids got something to eat, and he tried to wash his dish, and she got out later. She's like, look at this dish. She's getting frustrated. You realize one of the young boys that our boys is trying to help wash this dish and was trying to wash it and put away. So hopefully she felt a little bit bad about it. I don't know if she did or not, but we all have our areas where we can get easily offended, and we need to grow up, and we need to move on, or we need to sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, when you do that, that does bother me, that does hurt my feelings, and both of you grow up and have an adult conversation. But legitimately, there are times when you have been hurt, when you have been taken advantage of, and someone does need forgiveness, and you may think, why should I ever forgive that person? But Jesus has several verses today, and I don't always use this many verses because I like to really explain and break them down, but I'll go a little faster. But let me just throw out there. Jesus said, then said he unto the disciples, it isn't possible but that offenses will come, but woe unto him through whom they come. It's impossible you'll never get offended. It's impossible someone will not hurt you. It's going to happen. And I don't want it to happen to anybody. I don't want it to happen to me. But unfortunately it has. And my guess is it has in your life as well. It's impossible, but that things will come. But if you're that person who keeps doing it to other people, it's not good for you. Woe unto you. So if you think I can just keep hurting other people, I can always be a jerk. I can always be that person who takes advantage of other people. I can always hurt someone else and just move on with my life, and they're left with all the carnage and all the hurts and all the baggage in my wake. You are going to be judged at some point. So don't be that person. But if you're the person who says, I'm getting picked on because I'm the only person with the hurt. No, we all are going to have times in our life when hurt comes. So take heed to yourself. If thy brother trespass against thee, he hurt you, rebuke him. If you repent, forgive him. You can let him know, and many of you have let them know in the past. And you may say it didn't help. They still didn't admit their fault. They did not come clean. They did not come and say, you're right, I'm incredibly sorry, and please forgive me. If the trespass against us 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day turning into thee saying, I repent, how shalt thou forgive him? So we have to understand, and some of you, if you have kids, have you ever seen that? They'll sit there, we had 3 boys. They'll hit one of their brothers, hey, say you're sorry. I'm sorry. 2 minutes later, what do they do again? They hit him again, all right? And then what do? You hit them. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so you had that. But you start seeing that pattern happen, and we're that way. There is nothing more insincere than if you have kids and if you tell them, are you sorry for that? Yes. Say you're sorry. Sorry. Have you ever seen that before? And the other one's like, you didn't mean it. Yes, I did. You ever had that happen? I know that Chris is here. I know her mom once. I got in trouble, and Kristen had this big smile on her face. So I went and got in trouble, came back downstairs, and she was smiling. I'm like, well, you just shut up with that smile. So I got in trouble again because of her smirk. So take that out on your mom. All right, so you can have that happen. Those things happen. But what happens is the apostle said unto the Lord, man, increase our faith. Help us to trust you more. And if you've been hurt and you don't know how to forgive because it's past your ability to do so in your mind. The disciples said, how in the world if someone keeps hurting us? Increase our faith. Help us to be more like you. Help us to trust you more. And my guess is all of us would do better if we did trust the Lord more and realize that He is in control. But it is so difficult to do so. These are men who are looking at Jesus Christ and looking at Him with their mouths probably open, saying, are you kidding right now? Man, increase our faith. You can do that, Jesus? Yes. What a challenge for all of us to do. So how in the world are we supposed to do this? I guess they wanted to reiterate it, so they put 2 hows in there. All right, there we go. God clearly tells us to forgive. But why in the world would we want to forgive? I understand. I've talked to enough people, and you probably have as well. Some people, frankly, do not deserve forgiveness in our human opinion. They don't. They've taken advantage of other people. They've hurt someone else. If you hurt one of my kids, you know what? It's going to be pretty hard to forgive you because that's how it is. And you hurt Jesus, kids, and he forgives other people, but he's telling us to forgive. But all of us in our hearts know how hard it is. We also know when we don't forgive somebody, where does that hurt stay? It stays right below the surface, doesn't it? It's always right there. It's always right around the corner where we think we've gotten past it, and man, it comes up again. It's like a sore spot. Every time you think you did it, man, it comes right back again. And you can't get past that. You know why? Because we haven't learned to forgive. And I'm never minimizing your hurt. I'm never telling you to just get over it. That's not what I'm saying. I want to be understanding, compassionate. I want to be empathetic. But I want to say for your sake sometimes, you should forgive. Not because the other person deserves it, because you deserve it. You need to move past that offense. Jesus says in Ephesians 4:32, many of you know the verse, be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Being kind, tenderhearted, and then forgiving. Is that how we treat other people? I don't ever go into a lot of things about our society right now, but just think about culturally right now. If all of us said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be kind and respect everybody as we want to be treated, and we're going to forgive each other. Just think right now how much turmoil that would solve. Just think if we all looked at each other in the eyes and think, you know what? Jesus loves you, so I should love you, and I will. Jesus respects you, I'm going to respect you. Let's just get along and get past the hurts that we've had. Just think what could absolutely happen. Matthew 6, verse 14 and 15, it says, you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. As you start forgiving other people, Jesus Christ is man, I like that, he's going to start forgiving you. But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive yours. I want to be a forgiven person. I want to be treated with someone with a clear conscience. I want my hurt to go away. I want to get over my baggage. Some of you have been hurt tremendously by, sometimes you've been cheated on by a spouse. And boy, what a deep wound. Sometimes, I know some people, they've come home and their spouse is gone. I know some of your children have really hurt you. I know some of your boss in the past at work has really hurt you. I know some of your family has really abandoned you and left you in a time of need. I know some of you have been abused and taken advantage of. And you have to get past that and you think, how can I just let that go? Sometimes when I see the forgiveness people in this room have displayed, I look at you and I'm challenged to increase my faith. Because some of you have shown more faith than I think I have. Because of your ability and strength and willingness to forgive. So I'm not pointing my finger at anybody today. This is a principle and a truth that's not easy. But it is so helpful. And if you've ever been hurt by someone, you have to understand you're the person who can be freed by saying, Jesus, I need to forgive them. Help me get past that. And Jesus looks down and gives you the grace necessary to get past that. What forgiveness is not. So we need to understand, this helps you not to understand, I'm not minimizing. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not saying, you know what, you hurt me, so let me put myself right back in that situation again where I can't get hurt again. It's not forgetting. Forgiveness is not saying, you know what, you said something incredibly unkind, mean, and hurtful, so I'm going to put myself right back in that position again so you can hurt me again. It is not that. Forgiveness does not mean having no boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean to someone that say, you know what, I know how you took advantage of me and you ripped me off and you swindled me or you cheated on me. I know what happened, so let's repeat that process again so you can hurt me again. I want to forgive you again. No, you try to set boundaries. You try to say, hey, this is where you're not crossing this line again. You try to say, hey, I need you to not do this anymore to me because this is not okay. Those conversations are okay, but at some point you understand forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not acting like it never happened. It's not sweeping it under the rug. It's addressing the issue, even if you have to address it personally, because they won't. Because believe me, we've dealt with some people who will not address that fault on their own. You may have to address it, but it's not forgetting. It's not just saying, oh, well, it never happened. It's addressing it, the hard look at it, saying, you know what, it did happen. And I'm consciously making the decision to say, I'm going to get past it. Many people say when you write it down and you see in your own handwriting. And then after you see in your own handwriting, you repeat it out loud. And if you're embarrassed about that, say it out loud. After you write it down, say it to yourself so you hear yourself. And then you can even burn it if you want to, or throw it away so no one else sees what you're forgiving someone of if you don't want to hurt it. It's such a deep wound that you have. But when you do that, forgiveness is a gradual process. You may in your heart really want to forgive today, and you may mean it. But a week from now, you may have to do that again. And a month from now, do it again. But the more you do, the more it's going to free you and empower you to get past that bitterness. Understand that forgiveness is not fair. It is not fair. It is not because the other people deserve it. It is not because they've come repentant to you and they're so sorry they've done that. It's not because you look at them and you say, I have compassion on them. It is not fair sometimes to forgive. But we have to understand God wasn't fair when He forgave us either. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that God has forgiven me. You know what I deserve? I do not deserve forgiveness. I do not deserve heaven. But because God says, you know what, I'm not going to be fair. I'm going to show you forgiveness and you grace and you mercy. I have the ability now to go to heaven because of my faith in Him. I am so thankful that God did not treat me fairly when He forgave me. My guess is He wasn't fair with you when He forgave you. So understand, God set the example. Jesus came down and paid the price when He did nothing wrong to pay the price for us and say, you know what, I'm going to forgive all of you who mistreat me and abuse me in the future. Because He didn't want to be fair. He just wanted to help all of us. So if you're having a hard time in your life saying, you know what, when I was a child, this person took advantage of me, that is not fair. You're right, it's not. But I want you to have a strong, healthy, fulfilled life. And to do that, it's very clear that you have to forgive so you can move on. So you can get past it. So that person does not have any hold over you anymore. Because when they have a hold over you, it's going to linger in your stomach. And I read a book this week and talks about all the psychological effects of people that struggle with anger and bitterness and stress and grief. And talks about all the things that happen to them and how much it hurts them in their own health. If you have an anger problem and you can't forgive and you get anger all the time, it says you are 4 times as likely to have a heart attack or have heart disease by the time you're 50 and die than people who don't have anger issues. And it talks about all the different baggage that comes when you won't forgive. You really do hold that in, and it really does hurt you in a big way. Psalm 103 says, He hath not dealt with us after our sins, nor rewarded us according to our iniquities. He does not give us what we deserve. For as the heaven is high above the earth, so great is His mercy towards them that fear Him. As far as the east is from the west, so far hath He removed our transgressions from us. Let me understand here. If you're the person who did the hurt, you have a hard time forgiving yourself because you hurt somebody, you need to look at these passages, this right here, and realize God will forgive you. Sometimes people that you hurt won't forgive you. And you feel incredibly guilty and you should go back and rewind time and undo what you've done. You know you've caused horrible pain and suffering for someone else. You have to live with that. I don't want you to ever do that again, but if you go to Jesus Christ and say, I desperately need you to help me, He will forgive you. And you should do all you can to make it right with the other person. And they may choose not to forgive you. You can't control that. But you can get forgiveness from God, and you can make sure you never do it again. And you can try to do any reparations that you can do to make it right. But you have to understand, God does not reward us because of our actions. He rewards us by His grace and His mercy. Forgiveness is giving others what God gave already to each one of you. So when you don't want to do it, and I never want to do it, and I don't like it, and when someone comes up and tells me, and it offends me, and they hurt me, I hate it, and I find that old anger flaring up, and I find the hurt flaring up, and I do it. But I have to remind myself, even if they don't deserve it, even if they don't earn it, even if they don't come back and do it, I'm doing what God has done already for me. Another familiar verse, we confess our sin. He is faithful and just to forgive us our sin and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If you've hurt anybody today, I want to encourage you to go back and make it right with them. Do you can. If you can't do it in person because they're angry, do it through letter. Do it some really kind way. Really pray hard before you send that letter and make sure the grace of God is in there. And the Spirit of God leads you. But if you ask for forgiveness and you ask, say, God, I have to have it. I hurt. I did something wrong. I used my tongue in a very malicious way. I did some actions that are irreparable in their damage. And God, I'm so sorry of what I've done. You have to understand God will choose to forgive you. The gospel is not just receiving forgiveness. It's also giving forgiveness. We always want to take. But if we're truly going to be Christ-like and increase our faith as the apostles looked at Jesus Christ with their mouths dropped open 70 times 7. Are you serious? They do it 7 times in one day? If we really want to be Christ-like and we want to model what the gospel did for us, we need to also give forgiveness. If you've asked for forgiveness of someone else, but you refuse to give it to someone else who's hurt you, reconsider that. What would Jesus have you to do? God asks you to forgive because He loves you. And He wants to heal you and set you free. So I don't know where you're at today. And maybe last week you're just in that world being easily offended and you have all that. And you're still sitting there saying, I can't believe she did that. I cannot believe she's dating that guy. She knows I liked him in 3rd grade. And at one time he is going to look at me. I can't believe that. And some of you guys, you get so mad. Yeah. See her over there looking all smug. Yeah, see that? Yeah. She won't even sit by me right now. There's a good reason. Okay? You look like a dork. And you don't even know what you're doing. All right? You treat her like really weird. But you get so bitter over it. And then you look at the guy that she said yes to. And you sit there saying, I hate that guy. I hate him. You don't even know the guy. You don't know what's going on. One quick story. I can't believe I did. I know my wife and I had one date. We were in college, our first date. She already had a date set up with the next guy on a Wednesday night at church. I still can't believe I did this. But I got there from work late. I didn't usually get to come to church, but I got there late. I can tell you where we're sitting on an angled aisle. She was about 10 rows ahead of me, and she was sitting with another guy. Keep in mind, we had one date. But I'm sitting there thinking, what's she doing? She's sitting with another guy. I asked her out, and I clearly intend to ask her out again at some point in the future. So as soon as he said the closing prayer, I walked up and stood at the end of this angled aisle. She was the 3rd and 4th seat down. I still remember the guy's name. And I looked at her and I said, are you dating me or are you dating him? She looked, she says, I'm going to date you. I said, let's go. She left with me and I took her out there and he was left there. Should I have done that? No. Has he ever forgiven me? I don't care. What if he'd have taken a swing? Bring it on. But I'm glad she went with me. What would she have done if you'd have said no? I don't know. I didn't think all that through. I just said, hey, I won her. She's supposed to be mine. What am I doing? She walked out with me. He's homeless. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. Jesus wants us to increase our faith. And He wants us to trust Him so we can get past some of the hurts. Faith enables us to see an opportunity for freedom when others only see an offense. I want you to get past the offense. I want you to move past it. If you're sitting today and a wound is coming to mind from years ago or maybe a week ago, and you know it's legitimate and that person has not given you forgiveness, you need to consider forgiveness so you can get past it. If you've ever hurt somebody, that's coming to your mind, you know what, I've never asked them forgiveness. You need to deal with that as well. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve it. You need to get past it. Don't be a person that's so easily offended over something stupid. Don't do that. There's so many things that go through my head right now that are just silly, and we get offended over the silliest things. If that's you, grow up, mature, get past it. But if there's a legitimate hurt, an offense, consider saying, you know what, I'm going to give it to the Lord. I'm going to treat them as you have already treated me.